Welcome to the 4th Annual Nordstrom School Egyptian Museum. My name is Jackie Stevens and I'm one of the teachers here at Nordstrom School, and we're very proud and privileged to have our museum being videotaped. What you're going to see tonight is the efforts of over 100 students. Each one of our students has created an Egyptian artifact for our museum, and the museum guests are taken through a tour which is hosted by our docents. The museum is divided into 4 galleries. Each gallery represents an aspect of Egyptian civilization. The students have scripted their presentation, researched all the information, and have spent dozens of hours practicing. We're very proud of their effort. We'd like to thank the Live Oak Foundation for providing us with funds to purchase the research materials that allow us to put on the museum.
Good morning and welcome to the 6th grade Egyptian Museum. My name is Cassie and this is Kyle, who will be your guide to this gallery.
The Nile River is the longest river in the world and one of the only rivers that flows from south to north. If it weren't for the Nile, the Egyptians' entire civilization would not have flourished. That is how important the Nile was to their survival.
The Nile flooded yearly and deposited a layer of silt. This silt made the soil fertile and gave a bountiful harvest and plenty of food to eat.
However, if the Nile flooded and there were no preparations, the flooding could cause massive destruction. So to counteract this, priests invented a millimeter, which is a device that is used for measuring how high, on an average, a river will flood each year. Fish and birds were a source of food during the flooding.
This is papyrus. Papyrus is an aquatic plant that is used as a type of paper. As a result of oil growing in Egypt, it gave a useful tool for bartering.
Over here is flax, a blue plant that was used as a type of linen. This clothing was preferred in the hot desert. Both of these items were very useful for trading for other resources that the Egyptians didn't have, like wood and olive oil.
The Egyptians used the Nile as a highway. Merchant vessels traded goods while cargo ships brought lime and other materials to the building site. The most important boat was a Pharaoh's boat with its elaborate designs and valuable gems and metals.
Before you enter the museum, there are a few rules we must go over. Don't run around in the museum, stay with your group, listen to your docents, and don't touch the artifacts, but most of all, have fun.
Thank you.
Okay, I would like you to quietly stand up and everyone
Welcome to the Gallery of Architecture Achievements. Good afternoon. I am Emma and this is Alexis. Pyramids have survived for about 4,500 years so far. That's a long time. There are over 80 pyramids scattered across Egypt.
Hi, I am one of the queens of Egypt. Pyramids are tombs for pharaohs or kings' dead bodies when they enter the afterlife or heaven. We, the Egyptians, call pyramids houses of eternal life because we believe if a dead body is mummified and kept in a pyramid, they will live forever in the afterlife. That is why the priests bring them fresh food in the burial chambers. The pharaohs have their special items placed in the burial chambers with them.
Hello, I am Sinka. My father Satu is one of the builders of the Great Pyramids. I bet you think my father is a slave. Well, you're incorrect. He is a farmer. During the winter months when the Nile River floods my father's crops, he works on the pyramids. He is repaid for his work with housing, food, and clothing. Over 25,000 farmers work on a pyramid at a time, and it takes 20 years to complete one pyramid.
Pyramids are built perfectly oriented to north, south, east, and west. The stones on a pyramid were cut so perfectly that you couldn't even stick a piece of paper between 2 blocks. The blocks were cut perfectly by first chiseling a hole into the stone. Next, a large piece of wood was wedged into the hole. Then they put the stone in the water with the wood inside. When wood goes into water, it expands, which forced the stone to break. After all the underlying stones were in place, the capstone was put on the top of the pyramid.
On King Khufu's Great Pyramid of Giza, more than 2 million blocks of limestone were put into it. Each block weighed an average of about 2.5 tons. Wow. You may wonder how they got these massive rocks to the top of an 841-foot pyramid without machines. Scientists believe they built up mud ramps where the stone would go. Then, they rolled the stone up the mud ramps on logs. Khufu's Great Pyramid at 841 feet was the tallest building for about 4,000 years. It covers 13 acres. It is still a popular tourist site today. You now have a few minutes to look around our gallery. If you have any questions, please ask one of the four of us. Thanks for listening. And remember, don't touch any of the artifacts.
Welcome to the Burial Customs Gallery. Hello, I am Andrew, and this is Alyssa, Katie, and Eric. As you will find out in this presentation, the ancient Egyptians strongly believed that you would live forever in your afterlife. Therefore, they spent most of their life on this earth preparing for their life after death.
As Andrew said, the ancient Egyptians strongly believed in the afterlife. They also believed that in order to have a happy afterlife, the dead person's body had to be preserved. The process of preserving the body is called mummification. This process took 70 days. That's a long time. During this time, the burial priests prepared the body for its journey to the other world.
The mummy's internal organs were placed inside canopic jars. They were then put inside of a box, which was placed inside of the tomb. The brain, however, was pulled out of the nose with a hook after being mushed up inside and was then drained out. Pretty disgusting, huh? The Egyptians thought that it was absolutely useless, which was why they did this. The only thing that the Egyptians left inside of the body was the heart. It was thought to be the center of all of the emotions and intelligence.
After the dead person was mummified, his or her nostrils were stuffed with beeswax. Then, he or she was wrapped in linen and placed in their sarcophagus, or coffin. A sarcophagus was made of clay, wood, gold, or stone. On his way to his tomb, the pharaoh, or king, was sailed across the Nile River while the women wept and threw sand as signs of mourning.
Royalty were buried in pyramids, and ordinary people were buried in tombs in the cliffs. Tomb walls were painted with things they would need in the afterlife. Dishes and drinking cups were also buried in the tombs. The lotus flower represents rebirth in Egyptian mythology. It is found in many tombs.
You may now look at the artifacts around you. If you have any questions, please ask one of us. Have a good time, but please remember, do not touch.
Hello and welcome to the Gallery of Culture and Religion. I am Nephthys, goddess of mourning and a protector of the dead. Religion was a very important part of Egyptian life. They were polytheistic, meaning they believed in more than one god. Actually, they believed in hundreds of different gods and goddesses. They thought there was a god or goddess for everything in the universe. Many gods were depicted with an animal head or body. Thank you for visiting our museum. I am the goddess Isis, goddess of magic, healing, the home, and motherhood. The Egyptians were very superstitious and believed very strongly in magic and curses. They believed if you made the gods angry, they would punish you with plague or diseases. And if you pleased the gods, they would reward you with a bountiful harvest or a long life. Many massive stone temples were built in their honor, and servants of the gods would bring offerings every day.
Good day to you all. I am the goddess Hathor, the goddess of love, beauty, and birth. I am usually depicted as a star-studded cow. Since ancient Egyptians believed in hundreds of gods, I will name a few of the most important and common. Ra, the god of all creations and the sun. Ra had 3 children, Shu, god of the air, Tefnut, goddess of morning dew, and me. Shu and Tefnut had 2 children, Geb, god of the earth, and Nut, goddess of the sky.
Hello, fellow children. I am the god Anubis, the god of the dead. I am usually pictured with a jackal's head. As Hathor was saying, Geb and Nut had 4 children, Osiris, the god of the underworld, Isis and Set, the gods of the desert, and me, Anubis. As you can see, my family is very complicated. Osiris and Isis had a child, Horus, the god of life. These are just some of the most important gods. The ancient Egyptians believed that the pharaoh was a god and was carefully chosen only by the gods themselves.
You now have a few moments to explore the gallery.
Feel free to ask any questions. But remember, don't touch.
Hello, and welcome to the Daily Life Gallery. This is Catherine, Chris, and William. Day-to-day living was difficult, but ancient Egyptians still made room for leisure activities. During their spare time, adults enjoyed going to parties. It was typical at these parties for female dancers to perform to the music of a small orchestra. Instead of heading out to parties, children liked to play games such as wrestling, leapfrog, and tug-of-war, all of which we still play today. Small wooden animals and dolls were also played with by these ancient people.
Children in ancient Egypt were highly valued. Usually as many children as possible were born into a family, but sadly, many of these children died of fatal diseases. Young children lived in a special room in their house with a female adult relative. Boys' heads were shaved, leaving a single plated lock behind. This was chopped off when the boys reached the age of 12. It was considered a symbol of manhood. Some intelligent boys were selected to become scribes. This meant they had to be rigorously trained for about 10 years. They were taught an Egyptian form of writing known as hieroglyphics. Typically, people were married between the ages of 11 and 12.
Clothes in ancient Egypt were made of linen and some were dyed. Children's clothes were extremely simple. To keep one's feet from hurting, sandals constructed of reeds were made. This is sort of like their idea of Nikes. The Egyptians strongly believed in beauty and therefore had many things to make a person appear beautiful. Decorative bracelets, necklaces made of beads, and even rings of gold and silver covered the bodies of wealthy people. Often the symbol of the scarab was imprinted on these rings. Kohl, a black sticky substance that was worn around the eyes, right here, was not only worn for decoration, it helped to keep sunlight and dust out of a person's eyes.
The Egyptians were completely reliant on the Nile River for food, water, and transportation. Merchants sailed up and down the river to trade goods. Silt deposited by floods made the land fertile, and in fact, without the Nile and its silt, Egypt would be a dry wasteland with no water or food. Farmers provided a large part of Egypt's food supply, and their fields generated fruits, vegetables, and grain. These people worked in sweltering heat to feed Egypt. Fish was a common dish for a normal man, while the wealthy dined on beef, poultry, and pork. You now have a few moments to look around the gallery. Feel free to look at any of the artifacts, but please refrain from touching anything. Thank you.